This has to do with Philando Castile and his situation as far as the panel on the Roland Martin show is concerned.
In Minnesota, protesters are already there. This is the live look right now. Also this morning, the St. Anthony interim police chief says the officer who shot Castile is on paid administrative leave. Please stick with the live shot, please. The officer is described as a 5-year veteran of the force. And again, these are protesters in Minnesota outside of the governor's mansion. I want to go to, stay on this shot, please. I want to go to our panel. This is, again, folks, for her to use live streaming, and I go back to Baton Rouge. We are hearing this woman talk.
Yes.
We're hearing this woman talk. Guys, do me a favor. I want you to give me a split screen of this. I want you to give me a split screen of her video, please. You hear a live. You hear her describing immediately after.
Yes.
What took place.
Right.
She says the young man said, "Officer, I have a permit for a concealed weapon.
Yeah.
I am getting my ID out."
That he requested.
Now, here's the deal. If you're the officer, you need to actually wait to see some form of ID.
Right.
Right. Yeah, you have to.
Well, we've seen cases where people have been shot at the request of the ID. The guy at the gas station, I think it was in South Carolina, the ID was requested, the officer shot him, the officer was prosecuted for that moment. So it's not as if this is new, but this idea that somehow the law applies equally to African Americans and everybody.
Who cares if
The open carry is of course out the window. We've got a guy in Atlanta walking through Atlanta's airport with an AK-47 on his shoulder, and nothing happened to him. The cops approached him, they talked to him, and that was it. And he did that to display the power of his Second Amendment rights. So obviously, you know, there's a difference in the law here that's very obvious in these videos.
Not only that, I mean, all of these laws, stand your ground, all of these are disparately applied when it comes to African Americans. I think, you know, the situation here, we're lucky that she was in a particular form of shock that made her calm. And because she could have very well be shot and killed, her child was in the back seat of this car while they're shooting. It just shows that we got this whole stereotype of black people, black men, black women as being criminally, you know, crazy and dangerous, and you should just shoot them. Also, as we also know, there's this whole police mentality that blacks who are quote non-compliant are to be treated like a rabid dog. You put them down, you just kill them. And I really believe that we have to demand right now, everybody, no more protests, no more petitions, no more news conference. Black folks, anybody who cares, it's time for national economic action. It's time for us to change and flip the script.
We're supposed to demand things in our advocacy. We don't demand anything.
Right.
Everybody endorses Hillary Clinton without any demand on these issues, and they don't get anything.
But also, but again, I go back to what I said earlier in terms of cops having to pay. But also, I believe it's important that you have to have, because I'm tired of hearing about all these good cops. You have to have cops who are willing to stand up. Folks, this is a radio interview yesterday. And the guys, is Rosenberg, if I'm correct, with the radio show. So a cop called into his radio show, and listen to what he tells his officer.
Y'all don't ever want to point at someone else and say, you can't do your job well. I can tell you right now, if I heard a radio personality get on the air and do something irresponsible, I'd go, that's a bad radio personality.
Yes.
He does a bad job.
Yes.
Police officers never want to say when y'all do a bad job. So that's the reason the public thinks all of you are bad. Because you won't ever call someone out and say they murdered someone in cold blood, it happened again. And until you guys start taking responsibility for your own, people in the street are going to be upset instead. So how about y'all lead the movement instead? How about instead of people rioting, police officers get out in front of it themselves, and you guys are the first ones on the front lines?
That will never happen.
One second. So, a police officer, Nakia Jones. First of all, guys, take out the video out of Minnesota, please, out of my ear. Nakia Jones posted this video last night on Facebook.
Nakia Jones. My son came home from work today and he showed me a disturbing video about a young man that was shot and killed by police in Louisiana. And it's so funny because my son wanted to go to college there. And I kept saying, I ain't feeling that or whatever. What's interesting to me is that the shooting involved a police officer. And I watched the video over and over and over and over and over again so that I wouldn't become judgmental, because not only am I a mother of 2 African-American sons and I have African-American nephews, I have brothers, I'm also a person that wears the uniform with the blue. I'm also the one that is their life to put their lives in danger. I wear blue. So I'm looking at it, and I became so furious and so hurt because it bothers me when I hear people say, y'all police officers this, y'all police officers that, and they put us in this negative category when I'm saying to myself, I'm not that type of police officer. I know officers that are like me that will give their life for other people. So I'm looking at it, and it tore me up because I got to see what you all see. If I wasn't a police officer and I wasn't on the inside, I would be saying, look at this racist stuff, look at this. And it hurt me. First of all, I became an officer in 1996. I grew up in the hood, so I ain't grew up in the suburbs. I grew up on 93rd and Kent. We moved to East Cleveland, so I know what it is. So the reason why I became a police officer was to make a difference in people's lives. I knew what it was like to have a parent on drugs. I knew what it was like to watch people be picked on and bullied on and all kinds of things. And I said, I want to make a difference. I want to be that change, so I became that change. So in 96, I took an oath in East Cleveland, sitting in front of Chief Guy, that said I would serve and protect my community by all costs. Even if it meant I wouldn't go home to my 1-year-old daughter. And that's what I did. And I did it with integrity and respect. The thing that hurt me most of all was that a lot of people that I was arresting were the same color as me, that grew up in East Cleveland like me, so I couldn't understand that. Why would you want to destroy your community? I couldn't understand. I said, okay, but they're not sworn to serve and protect either. They didn't take that oath. This is what they do. So then I left there and I came to another predominantly black community and became a police officer. I'm the first and only African-American female officer that I can say pride and respect. I sat in front of Marcia Fudge and took that oath that I would serve and protect my community. And I also moved into my community and I raised my children in this community. I wear that blue uniform proudly. And I know for a fact I have 5, 6 beautiful children that love me, and a husband. I have a family that loves me. I know there's times I may not come home from work. I have taken guns off 15, 14, 13-year-old children. I'm talking about real guns. I've had to go and tell a mother that their 13-year-old son or daughter was not coming home. I've interviewed rape victims that's been raped by people that look just like me, the same color as me. We are running around killing each other left and right. But what hurts me the most is the people that stood in front of a judge and stood in front of a mayor and said, I swear my oath that I will serve and protect this community. And God, please forgive me, and you can delete me if you're getting mad at me. If you are white and you working in a black community and you are racist, you need to be ashamed of yourself. You stood up there and took an oath. If this is not where you want to work at, then you need to take your behind somewhere else. I decided to work in an African-American community because I'm African-American and I wanted to make a difference. I could have worked in Parma. I could have worked in Lakewood. I could have worked in North Olmsted. I'm a double minority. They would have got 2 hits for me because I'm African-American and I'm a female. I'm here because I wanted to make a difference. But how dare you stand next to me in the same uniform and murder somebody? How dare you? You ought to be ashamed of yourself. So why don't we just keep it real? If you're that officer, then know good and well you got a God complex. You're afraid of people that don't look like you. You have no business in that uniform. Take it off. If you're afraid to go and talk to an African American female or male or a Mexican male or female, because they're not white like you, take the uniform off. You have no business being a police officer. Because there's many of us that will give our life for anybody. And we took this oath and we meant it. If you are an officer that's prejudiced, take the uniform off and put the KKK hoodie on. Because I will not stand for that. If you're an officer that works with me and you're wrong, I will tell you you're wrong. My heart goes out to that young man's family, because if it was my son, I don't know what I would do.
Go off, Pam.
Wow.
That was powerful.
That was.
It's a little bit two different issues going on there, though. The issues in the black community with regard to black-on-black violence and issues of state violence are two different issues.
But she's making the point. She's making the point as a black officer.
Right.
But she's making it perfectly clear. And it was the shooting video that caused her to say to fellow officers.
Right.
And again, I believe that's one of the fundamental problems. And we keep hearing good officers. This is one who is saying, I got people in blue. They don't need to be in uniform.
For some reason, we don't tell police that, look, if you can't handle the pressure and you can't handle the job, don't take the job. We don't tell cops that. We tell our military that. We don't tell
I think
cops
that there are a lot of good police officers that have given voice, they just don't have a megaphone, right?
Anybody can talk.
No. He disagree, because we saw it in Baltimore. An officer who actually spoke, who said he was targeted. We see that all around the country. The blue line, they stick together.
Well, we got to be very clear, everyone. First of all, where did policing come from in the United States, everyone? It came out of slavery.
Yep.
It came out of patrolling and controlling black bodies. And we got to be very clear that that's the history, that's the culture that inculcates all police departments. And we're wrong if we don't realize that white supremacist groups around this country have targeted police departments to infiltrate. And that's one of the other problems.
Right.
And they are out there to kill and shoot us. We got to control.
Gotta go to a break right now.
All right, so she hit it on the head, and I've stated it before. The Klan has infiltrated a ton of the police departments. And not only that, but judgeships and district attorneys. So when it comes to getting justice for black people in the judicial system, you're hard pressed. But the first line, the first contact that's made is normally made by police officers. And if you got racist police officers, your chances of getting a fair shake are little to none. So we need to do something. But that black police officer out of Ohio, she basically called it the way it is. Hopefully some of those people will listen and take those damn uniforms off. But since they're making all the money that they want to make, and they are part of supremacist organizations on the down low, the chances of that happening are slim to none.